Hello and welcome to our book club with the amazing Mani Pureheart. Mani and I met last year in 2022 with Hay House when we went on a course with them. And ever since then, my life's been transformed by knowing this amazing human that sits before you. I'm going to read a little bit from his website, and it describes himself as the healer, teacher, and psychic. And Mani has joined our circle of light, and I know all of that is true because I've been present when that has been in force. So Mani, you're internationally recognized as one of today's most insightful and effective psychics and energy healers. And do go to his website. The link will be below. The link to everything we're talking about today will be below, so you won't miss out at all. So Mani, you have written 2 books and you've got another in process. And what I'd love you to do is talk probably first about your first book, which I know on your Facebook page, which again, the link will be below. You do share every day a nugget of incredible wisdom from that page. And it's almost like my go-to looking for that. And it's like, oh, what wisdom's coming out from the book of answers now. So I'm going to hand over to you, Mani, and tell us everything, and I'll interject when I feel the need.
Okay. Um, I'll just tell the story. I've had the extremely good fortune of having died and been through the tunnel of light several times while still in the same body. First time I died, I was 22 years old. And about 1990 actually. Um, Actually, in 1988, I began a massive spiritual awakening, uh, incredibly powerful. And spirit has been my only teacher. And they told me that for a period of 1 year that they would block me from reading anything of a spiritual nature or having any deep discussions of a spiritual nature with anybody because they wanted to teach me purely themselves. And I'm an omnivorous reader. I'll read anything and everything I can get my hands on. But I tested them. And for that first year, the only thing I had of a spiritual nature in the house was a Bible. And I'd open it up and I'd try to read a paragraph. Not that I'd try to read a paragraph and I'd read about 3/4 of the way through a sentence and my eyes would dart back to the beginning of the sentence. And I simply could not read it.
Wow, that's
Um,
amazing.
yeah. And what they taught me is so pure and so simple and so basic and so true that everything else I've run into just pales by comparison. So anyway, they being spirit, God, all that is, he, she, her, it, them, us, whatever you want to call it, informed me that I was to write a book. Well, I love reading, but I hated writing. There's too My mind works so fast that writing is too slow for me. It's laborious, and my hands are too big to fit on a keyboard, so I couldn't touch type. So anyway, they said we want you to write this book, and at that point in time, there were these little tiny cards called angel cards that were making the rounds, and everybody was real fond of them. And Spirit said, we want you to write a companion book for the angel cards. There were, I think, 52 words in the angel cards, and they want me to write for each word a description of what it means from a spiritual center point of view. Because if it meant what it meant in your dictionary, I'd hand you a dictionary, but it doesn't always. So they wanted to write the general meaning of the word, um, how the word relates to you on a personal level, how the word relates to your life as you move through the world in a general relationship, um, what harsh aspects there might seem to be from the associated with that phrase or word, and then finally, for me, the real nuggets in the book, the comments from spirit, and that's the only part of the book that could be called channeled. Everything else was written from my experience of having been through the tunnel of light several times and had some great awakenings and experiences there. So anyway, it took me 7 years to get the book finished and published, and this was the original copy.
Okay.
And over the years, as I started publishing, I'm really good at writing books. I'm not good at selling books.
Mm.
So I didn't do any promotion or anything like that. And I couldn't figure out why the thousands of books that I bought weren't selling. Uh, but somebody suggested to me that I give my book away on the internet, which is what you've been seeing, my daily posts from the Book of Answers. This book addresses 216 words and phrases that are commonly used in readings. And it doesn't matter how you arrive at that word, the meaning in the book is still appropriate for you. And over the years, as I was publishing these, I like to play with digital art. So I started making illustrations for each one of the words. And I wound up with 216 illustrations that I'd either created or curated. And a friend of mine, as a college project, needed to create a digital book. And so he took the original book, and we now have this little tome, and it's full color illustrated all the way through.
Oh, yes, beautiful.
So, anyway, so that's the Book of Answers. I have seen this book do some miraculous things. I was at an expo in Spokane several years ago, and an old crone came up to the book, picked it up, and just held it between her hands and looked up at me with shock in her eyes, and she said, "This book's alive."
Yeah.
I said, "Yes." um, but yeah, I have never seen it be wrong. I've seen people, when people open it up at random, it's, as you know and I know, that random is not a thing, but they always get exactly the message they need. So it's been, I've seen it change lives. I've seen it put families back together. I've seen it heal hearts. I've seen it facilitate people's growth. It's really been a blessing to have been the typist for such a tome.
Because words are encoded, aren't they? And they are
Yeah,
themselves medicine. Every word we speak is medicine, for good or
right.
bad medicine,
Exactly.
and so she's absolutely right. Words are alive. When you've spoken those words, they're still here in this universe. They do not disappear. You can overwrite them, but you cannot make them disappear. So
Right.
when you've got all these precious words in that book that took 7 years, and anybody can go and look at your Facebook page and know the power of them, and it's inevitable that they're alive. They're singing out loud. They're
Right.
really powerful. It's a powerful book. Have you
Right.
still got
Well,
1,000 of them, or have you managed to sell a few?
oh, I've sold a few hundred.
Okay.
I just, like I say, I'm just terrible at marketing.
Yeah,
I'm here to serve,
yeah,
and
we're on the
that's
same
that's
page.
yeah, that's my primary function.
Let me show you something that I've got nearly 1,000 of.
Okay.
In it. I had these beautiful sleep cards made,
Oh
and
yeah.
they're square, they're not round like your lovely ones.
Yeah.
And it's the company's, I changed the name of the company as well, but I think we've probably got about 900 of these.
Seemed like a good idea at the
Oh,
time, right?
it was perfect, yeah.
Oh, you mentioned the round cards. I think, oh, let's see, where are I here? Here we go.
Oh, yeah.
Oh,
Don't
there we
fall.
go. Notice our cluttered house here. Um, when I was writing the Book of Answers, but the Book of Answers, um, I was aware that there was to be a deck of cards with it,
Mm.
and the only thing I knew was that they weren't going to be square. And I was thinking maybe they would be rectangular cards with rounded corners, or maybe a square card with rounded corners, or a triangular card, so you couldn't tell which way was up. And I was in Seattle, Washington, doing some teaching and healing work, decades ago now. Um, and I went into a little restaurant called the Chanterelle. I still remember it. Uh, and I was going to order a sandwich for lunch, and the little waiter came over to me. He says, "What can I get you, sir?" And about that time, this download hit, and I said, "I need a pencil, a couple pieces of paper and a pencil now." "Okay, sir." And he brought me a pencil, and Spirit gave me the directions for the cards, and they were like everything Spirit does. They were genius. So the cards are to be round.
Oh,
They have a design on them that has no top, no bottom, no right, no left. And on the other side of the card,
oh yes, lovely, lovely.
the image is the image on the front of the book, which was done especially for me, and it's Sophia, the angel of knowledge.
Beautiful.
That was done. It was a received image that was done especially for the book. I've got the original hanging on my wall here. Anyway, so you've got Sophia, the angel of knowledge, at the top, and then the word, and this arrow. If you draw the card and the arrow points directly toward you when you're doing your reading, that's Spirit's way of saying no big deal. We just want to remind you of this. So, and this is probably appearing backwards. Is the word backwards to you?
Yeah, no, it's not. It's correct.
Oh, it was correct. Okay,
Yeah.
good. Then I know which way to turn it here. So if the card is oriented at all towards the left, that's the left on you for you, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
That indicates that it's a feminine issue, which may be somewhere, somehow, there may be a lack or a resistance. If it's oriented towards the right, it means it's a masculine thing, which means you may be trying too hard or there's an abundance. If the arrow gets up halfway on either side, that's Spirit's way of saying this is pretty important. You probably better pay attention. And
Right.
if it gets up into the top quadrant there, Spirit's way of saying, do we need to have a little face-to-face chat about this? So that's like the single most important thing in your life. So anyway, with 216 cards and 360 degrees of meaning in each card, this provides the most in-depth reading of any system that I'm aware of.
Absolutely, absolutely. Because I mean, when I read the tarot, I read intuitively, and I
Right,
see the bit of the image that matters, the bit that's important to.
right,
Um, so here you've almost got the mystery taken out of it by knowing that whichever way it
right,
comes to you, there's a reason for that. Uh,
right.
so yeah, that sounds really exciting. I must put myself in for a reading with you, Mani.
Well, I never use them.
Oh no.
Why would I use them? I
Well,
have it all here.
well, just as a tool.
Uh, no, I'm pretty much what they call a pure psychic. I never use tools. In fact, when Spirit undertook to teach me that first year, and of course that's been continuing, but they were very, very specific that I not use any tools. And they told me, and this is pretty much a direct quote, every tool has its limitations and its ability to help you to move forward. Once you reach those limitations of the tool, if you have learned to depend on it, then your growth stops.
Yeah, yeah,
So if you recognize that you are all that you need no tools, then your power is limitless.
absolutely. And I couldn't disagree. That's so true. And I do use the tarot to do readings for people for the year to give them
Yeah,
an idea.
sometimes it's a bridge to the people you're
Yeah,
working
absolutely. And I
on.
definitely think, I mean, there's
Yeah,
evidence that it works
yeah,
because,
yeah. I don't mean to say talk down to anybody who does use tools.
yeah,
It's just that's the way Spirit taught me.
and I would agree. And it's more not about you, it's sometimes about the people that actually need that tool as a focus.
Exactly. Yeah,
Yeah. Oh, that sounds amazing. So This amazing book, is it still available to purchase?
It is absolutely. I have actually 3 editions. I call it the Heritage Edition, which is the first edition, and then my friends that helped me put it together. I have 2 versions. I have a softbound uh, illustrated copy, but it's illustrated in black and white, and these two with the deck of cards are $75
Right.
with postage extra. So if it's going to Great Britain, then it'll be more. I'll send it as cheap as I can. And
Yeah.
then the deluxe full color edition,
Yeah.
that's $125. It's quite expensive because there's color on almost every page.
And are these with Amazon or are they with you?
They're with me right now. I'm still working on. I have a very busy life. I'm still working on getting them available on Amazon, but right now I'm the distributor for them.
Brilliant. Okay, well, we'll make sure that all of this information's in the show notes. So thank
Okay,
you. And Mani, let's move on to your book that you
okay.
wrote. Well, I don't think you wrote, but you
My
published
my
last.
baby.
Your baby. And I do please tell the story of this because again, it's very inspiring. So
Okay. Well, the book is called Souls Sojourn, and I had no intention of writing it, but as fate would have it, or spirit would have it, I have to backtrack just a little bit and say that I very, very easily see past lives, my own and others, and I've seen probably 200 of my own past lives. There are a few that really stand out, and of those, there's one that's apex. That's absolutely at the top of the pile, and that was. I remember I have very detailed memories of old Atlan. We called it Atlan. It's called Atlantis today. So if I say Atlan, it's Atlantis. So where I was a teacher who taught in the same body for over 600 years and lived almost 900 years. His name was Davol Lachmimor. And again, as fate would have it, several years, well, okay, I have to sidestep a little bit here. I'm a jewelry artist and a lapidary. In other words, I cut polished gemstones and I make jewelry from them. And my wife and I were at a rock show close by several years ago, and a young woman with two about 9-year-old twin daughters came and stood on the other side of the table from us. And I looked at her and I knew there was something drastically wrong with her body. And I motioned her over to me and I whispered in your ear, what's going on with your body? Something feels really bad in your body. And she whispered back to me, she said, I don't want the girls to know, but I'm dying. I've got stage 4 liver disease.
yeah.
And this woman had been brought up as a Jehovah's Witness. And so she was very, uh, she had a lot of trepidation about any kind of healing or anything like that. And I said, my only tool is divine love. And she said, well, okay. So I stood back from about 6 feet and I held my hand out and beamed energy, healing energy at her. And she told me later, she says that my liver got real hot. And anyway, we talked for a little bit. She left. We kept bumping into each other at events around the area, which was weird. But she went to her doctor a week after I worked on her, and her liver labs were normal. She was supposed to die before she was 40, and she was 39 when I met her. She is currently, her liver is in fine condition. She's in good condition. She's a single mom. She got to continue to raise her daughters, and she is now a yoga teacher and so forth. She's got her own way, and that's fine. I have no claim on anybody. But so anyway, she wound up. Yeah, it wound up that she had been my spouse when I was Davol Nemo, one of many, because I lived 800
Yeah.
years. Uh, you know, that's the bad thing about living so long, much longer than anybody else, is you have to keep saying goodbye to people you love.
Yeah. Yeah.
But anyway, she had been my spouse, and she had a lot of curiosity. And normally, when you see a past life, you see the end of the life, and there's a reason for that, and you don't dig any deeper. Um, and there's a reason for that too, because it can take over your life if you're not careful. The past life can take over your current life, and that's a real danger. But anyway, I was at a psychic fair. After that. I went to a psychic fair closer to the coast here in Oregon, and a woman that I had seen several times over the years at the psychic fairs came and sat down. She says, "I've never talked with you before, but I want to get a reading today." And we got to talking, and I very excitedly telling her about having met my spouse from another life, suddenly realized that this woman, a redheaded belly dancer, female, had been my son in that lifetime.
Wow.
And my son had fallen down a cliff when he was 5 years old and broke his neck and died. And sorry, that's still pretty rough for me. I lost a daughter in this lifetime. So anyway, so then she left, and I knew that I knew there'd been two kids, but another woman that I had seen a couple times at the shows came and sat down, and we were talking, and I was telling her about the story of having met my spouse and my son, and realized that she had been the daughter. And all four of us have memories that interlace,
Wow.
and we had dreams and memories and so forth that interlace. And so here's a family that hasn't been together for 30,000 years that comes back together and remembers.
And is this all
And
in Oregon? Is this where you live
yeah, this is all in Oregon. Yeah. So anyway, that was the genesis of the book. It isn't the focus of the book, but it was the genesis of the book. And when okay, now stepping back again, I was a single dad to a 16-year-old son who was a very brilliant young man who loved to write. And one evening he asked me, "Dad, can you give me a line to start a short story with?" And so I kind of thought for half a second, reached up into the air and pulled this out of the air. Firefinger stood at the edge of the meadow and watched as his own funeral pyre burned. And my son never used that, but I thought it was a pretty cool line, and I never forgot it. So we're almost to the beginning of writing the book here. My wife and I have been together 35 years now. When we were together 30 years, my son and his wife treated us to tickets to go to Germany, and we have some people in Germany that think of us as their parents, and so they hosted us for a couple of weeks. And while we're at their home there in southern Germany near the Lake of Constance, I woke up one morning and all of a sudden I had the plot of the book in my head and the characters and how it was all going to happen. So the book starts out with a young man whose parents are killed, and he is adopted and raised by a woodsman whose mother was a medicine woman of European origin, and his father was a druid. Uh, and so he was exposed to all that knowledge as he was growing up. But the father, the man who adopted him, was told, who got a message from spirit, that he would raise this boy for a certain length of time, and then that Davol Namor would come and take over raising the boy. So when the lad is 7 years old, Davol comes, or no, I'm sorry, when the lad is 12 years old, the Davol comes and takes custody of him and introduces him to advanced weirdness. We attend a fairy wedding, the birth of a fairy. in the ceremony around that, there's a visit with the last dragon. He saves the mer people, inadvertently saves the mer people from disaster. And then there comes a time where, and Davil is teaching him all through this, all the spiritual basics and fundamentals. But there comes a time when it's time for Davil to leave his life. By that time, he's 19 years old. And he, well, let's just say in the end, a legend is born.
Of course. Don't give it all away.
The hook for the book is a fictionalized account of an ongoing true story that may or may not have ever occurred.
And whenever you tell me about that book, it's like I really must, because I'm not a big reader
Yeah,
of novels,
yeah,
but I do read them, but I'm not a big reader. But I always think, who's going to love this book, and who can I buy it for,
yeah.
so that I can actually get
Well,
that. Sounds
I
great.
have I've given several out to friends. I've sold quite a few copies too,
Good.
um, and most everybody say that they can't put it down.
Yeah, I
And
imagine.
I sent it to, there's a friend of mine that's an author in Scotland, and she said, "Where am I? There are so many valuable life lessons woven throughout the book that I had to stop and note them down. There's so much to absorb, and it is such a great read that I fully intend to read the whole book again." And then there's a man in Scandinavia that I sent it to that I have respect for, and he says, "I learned some things. It was more remembering some things I already know. I
Mm,
had to read your book to remember again."
absolutely. And I think I know who the Scottish lady was. Would it be this lady?
Yeah, it certainly was. Yeah, she's a sweetheart.
Oh, absolutely gorgeous. Love her to bits.
Yeah,
And
yeah,
this, just for all of you listeners, when you enter into a new passion like writing and becoming and publishing, which is a whole wide world apart from what I've done before, as much as I've written for years, um, you end up meeting the most magnificent people. And because of technology, we can have friendships across the waters. I mean,
right,
I'm in groups with some amazing women in New Zealand. I've got lots of friends in Australia and Canada and America. It's an amazing opportunity,
it
technology.
really is.
And when you've got this commonality, even if I never left my home, I can travel the world. And a lot of people travel the world through books, don't they, Mani? And it
Right,
sounds like Souls Sojourn is a sort of a traveling book, and it's a book that will get under your skin, and you'll really start to process some of these amazing experiences and memories, I think. Yeah.
right. We even go off world. There's a, a planet that they visit, and then we talk about the genesis and the end of Atlantis.
Yeah.
Some of the Atlantean history and so forth. So I think it keeps moving along pretty well.
That's good.
And it
My
was so funny because when I started writing, I thought it was going to be a short story, and I had absolutely no idea where it was going. And I have to share one more thing with you. I was not feeling very well at all, and I was thrashing around a lot. So that rather than wake up my wife, I got up and came to the sofa, and I'm trying to find them. Anyway, I'm laying on the sofa in that wonderful space in between awake and asleep, and all of a sudden the I don't know if I'll be able to find it or not. Anyway, oh, here we go. Uh, I got this wonderful wedding ceremony for fairies,
Ooh,
because this is the way the book was written. Is that I would write what I had visioned. And then when I had that done, in a day or two, I'd get another vision and I'd pay a lot of attention to what was in the vision and I'd write it down.
Right.
And it flowed into the book. And so the whole thing was just, it was gifted to me. So this is the wedding ceremony for fairies that was given to me in a vision at 2 a.m. when I wasn't feeling well. And I simply had to get up and write it down. And I'll try, it's kind of emotional for me. I'll try to read it without breaking into tears here. Uh, the day of the ceremony began with a beautiful, warm, sunlit social time for all attendees. Chedrick, who was the young man, and Davol mingled, eating fairy delicacies and chatting with the other guests. Chedrick discovered to his dismay that some of the foods that the fairy considered delicacies were not quite so palatable to the human tongue when he bit into a lovely morsel that held a candied grub within. In the fairy's sacred grove, the matriarch stood before the assembled guests and the couple to be wed and recited the bonding ceremony. Family, friends, and fae, let the celebration begin. We are brought together today by hopes, by dreams, by the magic that is life itself. Today, we celebrate the ascension of love, of hope, of laughter, above tears, beyond fears, the birth of commitment that spans many years. Our gift of life begins as a seed, and in the heart of that seed, we plant all things we need to learn, to grow, and to thrive, to know the full meaning of being alive. So come now, ye, and gather round and celebrate as these lives are bound, for as long as they will, for as long as they may, be it forever or be it a day. Love has its preferences, fate has its way. As both are willing and as both commit to building their altar to love, where they worship together for the rest of their days, that altar will see them grow strong and grow true and will reward them and nurture them, leading their way into their foreverness after today. That altar, their womb, from which will be born all they can dream of, dreams yet to be born. Dreams may have brambles, that much is true, but they also have blossoms to carry us through.
Mm.
And in conquering brambles, they discover their strengths. They discover their resources. They conquer new lengths undreamt of. And in that time, when the dusk starts to fall, and winter is coming as it comes to us all, may they wrap in their memories, drinking their tea of what used to be you and used to be me, but has long since been us, the sweetest of brews, in front of a fireplace where brambles are burned and memories of flowers mark all that they've earned. May all beings in the cosmos, may all forces of light bring blessings and joy to this couple tonight, and for each night together for as long as they choose. Blessed be.
Oh, so beautiful.
I
Oh,
get
yeah,
goosebumps.
me too. Yeah. Oh, thank you so much for sharing that, Mani. It's
Yeah,
absolutely beautiful. Thank you
yeah.
so much.
You're welcome.
Lovely. We've got a few minutes just to talk a
Okay.
little bit about the book that's on your mind at the moment.
The
It's
monster in the closet.
the best of all possible worlds,
Right.
and that is a vest of all possible.
Right.
And share a
It's
little bit.
once again based on an actual experience I had, very loosely based on it. But when my wife and I went to Chaco Canyon, which is a Anasazi ruins in Arizona, where the nobody knows what people lived there, what language they spoke. It's rock dwellings, cliff dwellings. They're beautiful. And when we walked around there, I was very, very aware of the presence of the spirits of the people that had lived there following me around. And that night, I had a experience that seemed very, very real. And a being came to me and took me to tour the living Pueblo and explained to me in his language, but I understood telepathically, I guess, uh, that he had been an astronomer or an astrologer for the tribe, and he took me up into the hills and said, if you look past this rock, you'll see this star, and this means this, and so forth. But he gave me a phrase which I intend to speak out loud the next time I go to visit the great Kiva there at Chaco Canyon. He says, Nik Watana, Nik Dodestu Ashtanasti. And that translated in my head to, I am the connecting point. I am the keeper of the secrets of the stars. More goosebumps. Anyway, so this book will involve a young man that has this very similar experience. His father is Icelandic, his mother is very dark Haitian. He has caramel colored skin, blonde afro, blue eyes. He's a college graduate, and he will be visited by the same being and taken to the same place in his dreams, except he will have actually been there. And he goes back to that place and he finds a hidden piece of pottery that when he breaks it open has a little, looks like a little crumpled up aluminum foil ball in it. But he picks it up and it falls into a very, very fine chainmail vest. And Watana comes to him and says, this is the vest of all possible worlds. You can use it to travel to different timelines. You can use it to go see what would happen if, well, in this particular case, they will travel back to the year 1000 to Nova Scotia, Newfoundland, I mean, where the first known Viking settlement in the North American continent was. And that settlement just kind of disappeared. But in the book, the Vikings will merge with the local natives, and there'll be a cultural marriage that happens that will expand into the rest of the country. But he'll be able to travel through time and space. And we get into the book a little further, and it's 400 years later, and here's these 3 ships that try to come ashore in Massachusetts, and Christopher Columbus, does his regular. He mistreated the women and the natives horribly, so they kill him.
Oh.
So that's why the subtitle is Goodbye Columbus. So then we have a world without America. We have no Thomas Edison, no Industrial Revolution, no Henry Ford. The teachings of Tesla are used throughout the world. Then what happens in World War II? There's no America to come in and help fight Germany. So I have to create a whole new world here. But basically, we're going to go through the young man's focus. His degrees are in ethnology and history, and so he's going to be looking at the metaphysical beings and energies associated with the different tribes, and that's going to be his study for his search for the topics of his postdoctorate thesis are the thread that runs through the book.
Yeah.
And I still have no idea where it's going, but I think it's going to be fun.
It sounds amazing and quite magical as well. Lots of mystery.
Yeah. I can guarantee magical.
Absolutely. Mani, it's been absolutely wonderful spending time with you. And as I say, all of the links to everything will be below. And I was just sitting thinking, would it be, if there are people from the UK would like these books, maybe it might be worth coordinating that. It might be cheaper in the long run for people if we...
That's what I'm thinking, yeah. We could set if half a dozen people or more wanted books, we could send them to your address and you can send them on.
Absolutely. So if you do want a book, if you come via Mani first, but Mani will hold off to see if there's anybody else, and then we'll do it the cheapest way, which might mean that, I mean, depending on the thickness of the book, it would be £1 or £3, depending on the thickness.
Yeah,
So
the hardbound copy is 13 ounces, I think, and the
yeah,
softbound copy was 11 ounces. So
we'll look at that if people would like that.
yeah,
So Mani, before we go, is there
sure.
anything more you would like to share with people that are watching this video?
If I had to boil all of my teachings, I've been a spiritual teacher for 35 years now. If I was to boil everything down, there are two things that I would like to teach. One is to be love, and the other is to limit less.
Very good.
Spiritual growth is never, ever a matter of growing more. It is always and only a matter of limiting less. And if each day you limit yourself less, there will come the day where you will recognize that you have always been limitless.
There are some great words of wisdom, and Mani, thank you so much, my lovely. It's been amazing, as always. And thank you for watching. Do hang on. We're going to do a small meditation at the end of this video, as we always do in our oasis of calm. So thank you for being here so far. And thank you very much, Mani. Bless you.
Thank you for facilitating this.
Thank you, my love. And as we sit and reflect on all that we've heard, and we think about all of those questions that burn inside us, the what ifs, the hows, the whens, and we're just going to take a moment to sit with silence and mystery. So like you know how to do, just sit with your feet on the floor, hands by your side. Lift your chin and smile. Close your eyes and focus on your breath. Noticing how it rises and falls in your chest. And slowing your breath down to a comfortable pace. And now introduce one of your questions. In your mind, speak it out loud. Into the universe, into the air around you. And then let it go. No attachment to the outcome, no attachment to the answer. Just practicing letting go of that question and allowing the universe freedom to show you the answer. And now just return your imagination into your breath so that you can see it, the life force within you. And just put your hand on your heart for a moment. And with a deep sense of gratitude for every breath that you take and every beat of your heart and every story that you create in every moment of every day. And when you're ready, just open your eyes, reorient yourself to the room, and think about all you've learned today. And smile. Thank you so much for joining us. If you enjoyed this, please like and subscribe and share if you feel able. And of course, Mani and I would love any comments that you make. And if you do want a book, then please get in touch with Mani and we will find the cheapest way for you to receive it. Do look at the show notes below, and I will put in the current exchange rate, and that of course might change tomorrow. Take good care of yourselves. Bye bye.